Welcome to the Shifting Realities podcast. I'm your host, Julie Allison, and with me, as always, is my co host and friend, Robert Perry.
Good morning.
In today's podcast, we're going to give you 4 steps to helping you connect with your guides. It's something that we thought would be really nice to help you if you haven't been able to do it before, or you think you haven't been able to do it before, the steps we're going to give you might have already, I'm going to say, tried. These people have said, I've tried to do it. We're going to give you it in a way where we're going to give you examples of what's happened to us and other examples. Okay, so I'll pass you straight on to Rob, who will go through the first step, if you like.
Sure. First step for me is about learning to listen. So when we pull back and we think, oh, I'm going to connect guides now, let's
Hmm.
first assume there is a reason, because we don't sit back and go, I've got half an hour before I need to do this. I think I'll just connect to guides. That'll be fun. There needs to be purpose.
Yep.
But you can't even begin this process without hearing through the noise. When you sit back to meditate and, use a word that fits you, if it's not meditate, it's really difficult to quieten your mind and hear through buzz and thoughts and emotions and all sorts of just cloud you. So you need to really, really do that same old thing that we always say, Julia, is get within yourself.
Yes, go within.
Listen to yourself. Use your heartbeat, use your pulse, anything that brings you into yourself, and just listen. And when things distract you, listen past them.
Mm.
Yeah, acknowledge the distraction. That's absolutely fine. But listen past. Because if you cannot find enough silence, how on earth do you expect a guide from another dimension to actually communicate with you? They're not going to scream over the racket.
Nope.
They need a channel to get through to you that you can hear. So it's learning to listen. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think people just expect that they'll just. What happens is I think they go, I'm just going to decide to connect. They don't have any question, which we always find. What we're going to say now is you need some sort of question, even if it's what's my purpose as such. Remembering that there's not just one thing in your purpose. But also, I think they just feel like it's suddenly going to be this, I'm going to do this amazing channeling and I'm going to hear everything. And it really doesn't start off that way. Remember the analogy of taking your driving lessons. You don't just get in a car when you've never driven before and go 300 miles from within the UK, from Hull to Dover or whatever. But you can just create a silence by listening. As Rob was trying to say, just either do some sort of mantra, even if that
Yeah.
mantra is something in English where it's, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And that stops you thinking of all the, well, I need to go shopping in the in the next half
Mm-hmm.
hour. Remembering really that you can only kind of think of one thing at a time. So every time you think of the shopping, as Rob said, that's fine, or whatever else you need to do, pick the kids up or whatever. But then come back. So it's okay. So just keep coming back to, what is it, what you're wanting to know. And when I've just said, what is my purpose, be even more specific than that. What do I do today to move me forward? What can I do today, guides, to move me forward? So even if we think that our guides can't connect with us, they're always there. It's only us that have chosen to disconnect just from all the things that are happening in
Yes.
life, from environment and from all the things, us not understanding that things are happening from us, from within, that we think things happening to us. And that's what one of the things, that's the questions I ask all the time about in the meaning of life. And that's how I get things about how we work with consciousness and how we found that it's us that create things, because we've gone within and asked the question. And then we do have to really learn to be silent, to understand what's happening. So I would say, well, the second thing is to have that patience. Have so much patience. Now, that's something not many of us have in this world, is it? Not many of us have. And that's one of
Guilty.
the things that soul wants us to learn, is have that patience. To first of all just sit there with patience in silence, just thinking. And all you can do is, like almost like a mantra, go over and over in, what do I do today? What do I do today, soul, that would make me move forward into my next version of myself? What do I do today to help me along with my purpose? It's just words like that, some kind of phrase like that. And that's how you can start to learn to listen. Now, the patience part, here we go with kind of the next few things to work with. You have to then retreat within you, don't you, Rob? You just have to, you have to, the
Yeah.
patience is just being with the silence and understanding that you're not just, well, some people will end up with a download, and that's what we sometimes do now. But other times, we have to retreat within because it's so subtle. I know I have some experiences of this, but I don't know whether you have any experiences of going, to sort of, within, and then things happening when you first started connecting with guides, Rob.
I wouldn't be able to give a specific
Yeah.
example,
Okay.
and I wouldn't even say that I followed these
No.
guidelines now, although
No.
I would now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, when we talk about retreating, I think for me, it's also recognizing what isn't right for you. So when you've gone within and you've sought the silence and you've had the patience, it's about, without getting too technical, unplugging from the false matrix as much as you can.
Yes.
You
Mm.
need to let go of the state of the world and your worry. So, if you, there's no point in going up to talk to your guides and asking about a Middle Eastern situation, or
Mm.
will there be a general election? All this kind of thing is of no use on this level. So when
That's
you are
brilliant.
retreating and finding your own truth, and truth is always that word that comes up, it's just look at what is not appropriate here
Mm.
and
Yeah.
cut it loose.
Yeah.
But you had a specific example, Julie. I know
I
we were talking
did,
earlier.
yeah,
You
some
you
some
you
easy
mentioned it.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Rob said, you're not really, I will ask about the world, the world, but that's because I've been doing it for so many years. But what you can do is, you might just want to know, what is, I've said about this question, what can I do? Now, what I do, this example is, and I learned this from, from experience, is one of the things is, say, for instance, you have either an oracle card deck, or if not, a lot of us still have loads of books, don't we? I'm sure we've bought
Yeah.
all the self-help books as well as watched all the videos. Is just to sit there, and this is what happened to me. When I started using the oracle cards, I once did a reading on a client, and we'd finished, and we'd looked at all the priorities for that moment, and sent her away to work on those priorities. And then as I came back to the room, I went to tidy up, and a card fell off the top of the pack, top of the deck on the floor, and I ignored it. I ignored that subtle, what I know now is a subtle synchronicity sign from the guide. Put it back. Went in the room the next morning to get ready for my clients, and that same card, I must have just left the deck there, and the same card fell off onto the floor. Now that is when I realised that's a sign. That is a 3D sign from the guides. So although we've also talked about, when somebody's asked, can the guides give me some 3D idea? It's not what we think. It's not always the feathers coming down in front of us. It can be very subtle. So think of another way that I soon found out how that it would work is, if you've got the books on the shelf, sit in silence with the question. You have the burning question of what you can do today to help humanity, or help yourself, or help your family. Just sit and think about the books, and it will be the first book that your eyes are drawn to. Your eyes will be drawn, and you'll be thinking about a book. First thing that comes into your mind, grab that book. You can hold it in your hands just to give it a little bit of energy work, and then open that book out at that page, and it'll usually give you, I can guarantee 100%, it will give you the solution, or give you some idea of what action to take on the question you've asked. And that's such a good way. And that's, you guys, that could be your higher self, your soul. Don't keep worrying and questioning, well, who's this from? Is this right? Is this okay? Yeah, I mean, honestly, just go with the action of what you need to do from the solution that they're giving you in the book. Just go with that rather than overthinking it. So that's a really nice way when you're just starting out and learning. It's a good way. I teach some of the people in the membership when they first come into it how to connect with the guides, because it's such a good way. And once you get into it, it's fun and you just want to do it again. And you can do this with books. I've done it with, I've sat where there's, even a letter coming in. I've done it with an NHS letter coming in, and they've given me words, certain words of, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you get this in a letter, but it might be up level or, something that you can pick out, or it might be patience, anything. And you think, that word is coming out for me. What does that mean more? Then you sit in silence and work through it. That's how we have to learn to work. That's your driving lesson,
Mm.
how to work with that. I'm just going to say another example as well of a 3D thing. When we say, we always give we always laugh about where somebody almost wants to be, you want to be hit on the head or hit on the nose, by the guides to know that the guides are talking to you. And we laugh about that a lot because, again, it's going to be very subtle. But one of the subtle things in terms of being hit on the head or hit on the nose, when it comes to you in front of your nose, is like me. If you have an accident, I fell in the street and broke my arm. Now, I have to understand that that's not this, oh my goodness, I've broken my arm, woe is me. It always happens to me, how unlucky is this? Do you know what? No, that is another sign from your higher self and your soul to do something different to what you've been doing, and you haven't listened. You haven't done that first thing and you haven't listened. So this is where your soul can go, Julie, now you can stop and listen because you can't do anything else. You're in so much pain, you can't do anything. Now we'll get you to stop and listen. So please bear in mind, if you don't listen now, it might be in a it might be in a far greater way where you're made to listen. And I'm sure now you can look back and think about any of your examples, anything that's happened to you in the past where you can go, huh, was this a sign from my guides, and not just being in chaos and not just being something that makes it unlucky for me. So the guides, they talk about coming in mysterious ways. You've got to watch out for everything. You've got to watch out for any subtle signs and synchronicities from the guides. I'm sure now you might look back and you can think of far many other ways. Far many others. Do you know what? The first thing that's just come into my head now is also with crystals. So immediately, you see how I've listened. I've just looked at crystal. I don't know if people can see if they're on YouTube. There's a crystal at the back. That would mean I need to go and pick that crystal up to give me some sort of memory or something to, if it'd be for my next stage of what to do this afternoon. I think I've got to take it with me to a meeting that I've got this afternoon. You see how even now the guides have now given me this synchronicity. This is what you do. Just take a crystal. That's the action. Just take this crystal. Somebody will need it, whether it's me or somebody else will need it at this meeting. And how bizarre that you're going to take a crystal to a meeting. Should you really do that? Yes, because that's the subtle synchronicity. So here we are. Classic example live as we're speaking. How good is that, Rob?
Pretty good. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the African bush. And one of
Yeah.
the ways to find an animal is to look in the sand and look for spoor. So instead of going into the park or the game reserve and going, I'm going to see lions, I will keep a really good eye out in the gravel and the sand and see, can I see spoor? Which directions are going? How fresh is it? So it's these little
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting to be whacked on the head by something obvious,
Yeah.
it's these subtle things that will come to you, and you need to learn to recognize. It's part of that patience exercise, part of
Yeah.
unplugging from the matrix and going, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't yet necessarily understand it, but I'm starting to connect to you. And the more you connect, the easier that will become, and you will then start to get messages. But the wrap on this for me is throughout this whole process with guides, You have to really, really want to do this for a reason. It has to
Yes.
be a soul-led reason, not just a whim. You know, we
Mm.
said earlier,
Mm.
I think I might
Mm.
listen to the guides and see what they've got to say. They've got other things to do. They're not really going to bother coming to you with a pointless message.
Yeah.
So you need to ask specific questions.
Yes. Specific. Yeah.
Be open to them and
Absolutely.
ask questions that matter to you, genuinely to you. So what drives you? What's your passion? What do you feel is missing? What do you want? And just open your heart to the answers, because you have to do this with a certain amount of joy.
Mm.
Otherwise, it becomes just an exercise in frustration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the worst things I think when people say, oh, you can listen to your guides in 4 easy steps. Yeah, you can, but there is also a lot of frustration to be had. And if you don't have that patience and you don't find the stillness and you don't pull away from all the nonsense that we believe or are led to believe, you can't reach them and they can't reach you. And then you just get frustrated and you give up.
You do, don't you? Give
So,
up far too
yeah,
easy.
totally, totally. So go at it when you really want to. What do I want to know? Please tell me this, because this will be transformative in some way. And then go through that process. Find the silence, be patient, unplug, and listen.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. And if it's spur in the sand, or I hope it's not a broken arm in the street.
Yes,
It's fairly extreme. Let's
that's
hope it's
where
not
you
that.
do not want to
You know,
get it to that far. If
absolutely.
I'd listened before, if only I'd listened before,
Yeah.
might not have happened.
What I often find is I'll be driving behind a van or something with writing on it.
Yes, that's another
And
one,
you
isn't
look at a
it? Or a
word and you go, oh,
bus.
hang on, there's a
Yeah,
message. Yeah,
yeah,
plus sign, that kind of thing. Often
exactly.
little things
Yeah,
like that. And then it can
yeah.
be a couple of
Number
days
plate.
later and you go, oh, pennies just dropped.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's not just in that what we do is we expect to know the answer in 3 minutes. If you
yeah,
have the plenty of time up, isn't there, where we sit in the silence, sit in what we might call meditation. And if you're not getting anything,
yeah,
that's fine. Just walk away. I've done things when
yeah,
I've got to the
please.
door handle
Yeah,
and all of a sudden got a load of big download and had to come back to my desk. Or the other thing is, like you said, 3 days later, you might get a sign, or 3 days later, you've realized that you've already looked at something and it's given you a solution because something's come in front of you. It might be a person's come in front of you and you think, yeah, that's the one, that's the sign, and that's got to, I've got
indeed.
to do something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that you sort of don't have expectations, I think, when you do this.
Yes.
Normally you say
Yes.
manage your expectations, but it's don't have expectations, because you don't know how they will communicate.
Yeah.
You may well hear them speak to you.
Yeah.
You may well telepathically get a message. You may well see
Mm.
something, or you might get a sign.
Yeah.
So leave it open and just begin your journey with your guides.
Yeah. Learn to not have an attachment to the outcome. I need this
Absolutely.
answer now. Guides, why are you not doing? Now I'm frustrated. No. And they
Exactly.
will leave you frustrated because that's not them leaving you frustrated. It's you disconnecting.
Totally.
Not learning, not like trying to set off at 500 miles an hour in your car and you just got to
Yeah,
go 1 mile an hour. 1 mile an hour. Just
absolutely.
learn to slow the pace down when you're connected with guides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody has an entire, I call mine my spirit team, or my team in spirit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we all have this team in spirit. We can all connect.
Yes, absolutely.
We just have to do it correctly and for the
Yeah.
right reasons,
Yeah.
and not have ludicrous expectations
Mm.
of what we
Mm.
might get from it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you can, I think, only you can find your way,
Yes.
because we are all sovereign beings and we think for ourselves.
Yeah, we can discern for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. But just, yeah, try it, and try the steps that we've outlined. If
Mm.
they seem a little vague, they are perhaps a little vague sometimes, because this isn't a black and white process. This
Mm.
is a
Yeah.
spiritual process of connection. And it's not easy to say A, B, C, D, and bingo, there's your guide. But try what we've said and just see if you get anything.
Mm.
And if you get it, acknowledge it. That's really
Yes.
important. Acknowledge it and share gratitude for it,
Mm.
because this is a two-way street here.
Yeah, and gratitude
Yeah,
lifts your frequency. The best thing is just to really raise your
absolutely.
frequency, and all we mean by that is be in a happy mood. If you're not,
Yeah,
there's no point going in frustrated, no point going in angry,
no,
and even angry with you guys because I have done that before, and you
yeah,
get nothing. Trust me, you
no.
get nothing.
If
You
that's
don't
the
get the
case, just
true
park
answer.
it,
Yeah,
come back later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just come
leave
back
leave it a
later.
day until you're
Yeah,
feeling better. Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
So let's
Hmm.
hope, Julie, people have a go.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to
Yeah,
hear if somebody's had a
we
go from
would
what we've said.
absolutely love to hear.
Yeah,
Even if it's the smallest thing,
yeah. All the
share.
subtle
Please share with
synchronicities, it'd
us.
be brilliant to
Yeah,
hear. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just
Comments,
watch
please.
out for them. Just
Yeah,
watch out. You don't even have to sit. Sometimes you can just ask the question, get up and go, and you, as Rob said, you'll feel, you'll see it on a van, back of a bus, on a number
yeah,
plate, or might be in the street. Somebody walking the dog past in the street, and you'll just get something. You'll just understand what you're
yeah.
meant to get. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, good
Right.
luck, everyone, with that. Have fun.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye now.